The coldest night in 50 years fell over the small farming town like a heavy blanket of ice. Wind screamed across the empty fields, shaking windows and pushing thick snow against every door. Most people stayed inside, hiding near their fireplaces. But Ethan Hawley, an old farmer with a calm heart, was still awake. He sat near his stove, drinking hot tea, trying to ignore the strange cold that felt almost unnatural. Ethan had lived here all his life. He knew the sound of every winter storm. But tonight was different. The wind sounded wrong. It had a strange echo, as if something huge was moving across the sky. Even the animals were uneasy. His dog kept pacing back and forth, whining at the door. Suddenly, a strange noise cut through the storm. It was sharp and painful, like metal tearing mixed with a cry. Ethan froze. This was not the sound of any animal he knew. For a moment, he wondered if his mind was playing tricks on him. But then the sound came again, softer, but full of fear. It was coming from his barn. Ethan grabbed his lantern and coat. The moment he opened the door, a wave of icy wind hit his face. Snowflakes stung his skin as he stepped outside. The storm was so strong he could barely see a few steps ahead, but he pushed forward. Something inside him said he had to hurry. As he reached the barn, he noticed something strange. The barn door was open just an inch, even though he was sure he locked it earlier. Snow had blown inside, covering the wooden floor. Ethan slowly lifted his lantern and saw footprints, 2 sets. One set was large, with long, narrow toes. And next to them, tiny footprints, no bigger than a child's. His heart beat faster. Who could be out here with a child in such deadly cold? He stepped inside. The warm smell of hay mixed with the cold air. The lantern light danced across the walls. Everything looked normal at first. Tools in place, hay stacked, animals quiet. But then, behind the big hay pile, he saw something. Glowing. A soft blue light, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Ethan took a careful step forward. The light grew brighter, and the air felt warmer around it. He moved closer, holding the lantern high. What he saw next made him stop breathing for a moment. Behind the hay, crouched low to the ground, was a strange figure. It was tall and thin, with smooth silver skin that reflected the lantern light. Its large eyes blinked slowly, full of fear. In its arms, wrapped tightly, was a small baby with the same glowing skin. An alien. A mother and her child. Ethan's hands trembled. He had never believed in such things, but here they were shivering, scared, and clearly exhausted. The mother pulled the baby close and lifted one hand toward Ethan, not to attack, but to shield the child. He expected fear to rise in him, but instead, he felt something else. Sympathy. Something in the mother's eyes reminded him of a frightened person asking for help. I won't hurt you, Ethan said softly. The alien mother tilted her head, her eyes blinking as if she was trying to understand his tone, not his words. She let out a soft, hum-low, shaky, almost like a whispering song. The baby made a tiny cry, weak and cold. Ethan knelt slowly to show he meant no harm. His lantern revealed more details now. The mother's skin had cracks, like frozen lines. The baby's glow was fading. They were freezing. Good Lord, he muttered. You're both freezing out here. He reached for the blanket hanging on a hook nearby. The mother tensed, ready to protect her child. But when Ethan gently placed the blanket near them, not on them, she understood his intention. She looked at him again, her eyes softer this time. He took a small step back to give her space. The mother touched the blanket, studying it, then wrapped it around her baby. As she did, Ethan noticed something else near the barn's door, glowing marks in the snow. They looked like scorch marks, or landing marks. Something had come down from the sky tonight. Maybe a ship, maybe a crash. Ethan swallowed hard. If they had crashed, they weren't just cold. They were running from something. Suddenly, a deep sound vibrated through the night. A low growl. Not from any animal Ethan knew. The barn walls shook slightly, as if something large had moved outside. The mother's eyes widened. She pulled her baby closer and looked toward the door with pure fear. Ethan felt chills crawl up his spine. He whispered, "What the hell is out there?" The mother raised one shaky hand and pointed to the darkness beyond the barn. Her body trembled not from the cold, but from terror. Whatever they were hiding from was still out there. And now Ethan was part of it. Ethan stood frozen in the barn, the lantern shaking slightly in his hand. The alien mother kept her eyes on the door, her silver skin glowing softly in warning. Whatever was outside, she feared it more than the freezing cold. Ethan felt a tight knot in his stomach. If something could scare this strange being, then it must be dangerous. For a long moment, the barn was silent except for the storm wind. Ethan stepped forward slowly, careful not to make sudden moves. He whispered, "You're safe here? I'll help you." He wasn't sure if she understood his words, but his tone made her relax a little. Her breathing slowed. The baby in her arms made a soft whimper. Weak and tired, Ethan knew they couldn't stay in the cold barn much longer. They needed warmth, and food, and rest. He removed his coat and placed it gently near her. She watched his movement, confused at first, then touched the coat with her long fingers. She understood he was offering help again. Very carefully, she wrapped the coat around her baby, covering him fully. The baby's glow brightened a little. Ethan smiled softly. "Good. That's good." But then something outside made him jump. A faint metallic sound, like claws scraping across frozen wood. The mother's whole body stiffened. She looked at Ethan with wide, urgent eyes and shook her head slowly, as if warning him not to go outside. Ethan lowered his voice. "Is something hunting you?" She didn't understand the words, but she understood the fear behind them. She nodded once, very slowly, hugging her baby tighter. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. He had lived near forests his whole life. He knew wolves, bears, even stray mountain cats. But whatever was outside didn't move like an animal. It was heavier, more deliberate. And it followed them. He whispered, "Can you walk?" And motioned with his hands. The mother tried to stand. Her legs shook. She was weak, cold, hungry, and hurt. But she nodded again. She wanted to save her child, no matter how painful it was. Ethan grabbed the lantern, took a deep breath, and peeked through the small crack in the barn door. Snow was still falling fast, covering everything in white. But then he saw them 3 long marks in the snow, as if something sharp had been dragged across the ground. Not footprints, not tire tracks. Something else. He closed the door quickly. Whatever attacked them was still close. He turned back to the mother. "We have to go to the house," he whispered. "It's warmer there." He pointed toward the faint outline of his cabin through the storm. She hesitated, but then nodded, trusting him. Ethan helped her stand by gently supporting her elbow. Her skin felt cool like metal, yet soft, almost fragile. The baby made a quiet sound, and Ethan felt protective instincts rise inside him. No child alien or human should be out in this cold. Together, they stepped into the storm. Ethan shielded her as best he could. Snow hit their faces, and the wind pushed against them, but they kept moving. Halfway to the cabin, Ethan heard a deep thumping sound behind them. The mother stopped instantly. Her eyes widened. She turned her head slowly, her glow flickering like a warning light. Ethan didn't want to look, but he did. Through the swirling snow, far behind them, something moved, A tall shadow. Long arms, slow steps. Too large to be a human. Too controlled to be an animal. It watched them. Ethan whispered, "Keep moving," and held the mother's arm tighter. They reached the cabin door. Ethan pushed it open fast and brought them inside. He shut the door and locked it. Then he pushed a heavy chair in front of it, even though he knew it wouldn't stop a large creature if it wanted to break in. Warm air filled the room. The mother breathed with relief. She sat near the stove, her silver skin glowing brighter as the heat touched her. The baby gave a tiny, soft coo. Ethan grabbed a blanket and placed it gently over them. She looked up at him, her eyes full of gratitude and fear mixed together. Slowly, she raised her hand and touched his chest. A sign of trust. Ethan's heart softened. "You're safe?" "For now," he whispered. She made a sound soft, musical, almost like a thank you. But then she raised her hand again and drew a glowing symbol in the air. It looked like a long creature with sharp limbs, chasing a smaller shape. She pointed outside, then at the baby. Ethan understood. They weren't just survivors. They were being hunted. And the hunter was still out there. The warmth of the cabin slowly spread through the room, melting the frost from the alien mother's skin. Her glowing marks softened, her breathing steadied, and the baby finally relaxed against her chest. For a moment, everything felt calm, quiet, safe, but Ethan knew that safety was only temporary. He kept looking toward the dark windows, listening for any sound that didn't belong to the storm. The alien mother watched him carefully, sensing his worry. When the wind howled, she flinched. When the wood cracked in the stove, she tightened her grip on the baby. Every noise felt like a warning. Ethan poured warm water into a metal cup and gently placed it near her. She smelled it, then touched the surface with her long fingers. The water glowed faintly as if reacting to her energy. She drank slowly, and her color brightened. "You really are alive." "Real," Ethan whispered to himself. He still struggled to believe what he was seeing. Aliens in his cabin. On the coldest night in decades, the mother pointed toward the window again. Her eyes were sharp, alert. She made a low humming sound, fear mixed with urgency. Ethan whispered, "Is it close?" She nodded. Her glow dimmed slightly, like a candle flickering in wind. He stepped closer to the window. Outside, the storm was strong. But one thing stood out: the snow near the barn had long, deep lines across it, as if something heavy had crawled or dragged itself. Ethan felt his heart sink. What kind of thing follows a mother and a child through a snowstorm? He muttered. Before he could think more, the alien mother suddenly sat upright. Her body stiffened. Her eyes locked onto the door. She heard something. Ethan held his breath and listened. At first, he heard only the storm, but then a faint scratching, slow, careful, moving across the wooden boards of his porch. Scratch. Scratch. Pause. The mother's glow faded almost completely. The baby hid its face in her neck. Ethan whispered, "Oh no." He slowly stepped toward the door, not to open it, but to check the locks. The scratching continued, now slightly louder, like claws testing the wood. Then came a low, metallic growl. Not human. Not animal. Something else. The door shook lightly, as if something pressed against it. The mother released a sharp hum, a warning sound. Ethan turned quickly. She pointed upward, drawing glowing lines in the air. A tall creature, long arms, spiked limbs, a glowing face. The thing from her hologram. The tracker. Ethan finally understood. The creature didn't hunt with smell or sight. It hunted with heat. And now there were 3 warm bodies in his cabin. The tracker knew they were inside. A sudden, heavy thump hit the door. The whole cabin rattled. The baby cried. The mother covered its tiny head, shaking. Ethan grabbed the old axe from beside the fireplace. His hands trembled. "I'm not letting anything in here," he whispered. Another thump. Stronger. The door creaked. The storm outside went silent for a moment, as if the world itself held its breath. A sharp, screeching sound scratched down the door, leaving long marks. The creature was testing the wood, sensing the heat from inside. Ethan backed away slowly. "Okay. Stay calm," he whispered to himself, even though he wasn't calm at all. The alien mother raised her hand. A small circle of blue light formed around her palm. She aimed it toward the door. She was ready to fight if the creature broke through. But Ethan shook his head. No fighting inside. "You're weak. You'll get hurt." She didn't understand his words, but she understood his tone. Reluctantly, she lowered her glowing hand. Though her eyes never left the door, another thump. Chair blocking the door slid an inch across the floor. Cabin walls trembled. Whatever stood outside was. Huge. Then suddenly silence. Total silence. Even the storm. Paused. Ethan's breath grew shaky. He whispered, "Did it leave?" But before he could finish, a loud crash echoed from the side of the cabin. The tracker smashed against the outer wall, searching for another entrance. Snow fell from the roof. The window glass vibrated dangerously. The creature's growl filled the night deep. Hungry, intelligent. The mother let out a frightened hum. She drew another glowing image in the air. A symbol with two circles and a line between them. Warning. Ethan looked at the symbol and realized something horrible. There's not just one of them. Is there? The mother nodded slowly, her eyes full of fear. A second shadow moved outside the window. Ethan's stomach dropped. 2 trackers. Maybe more. The baby cried louder, and the mother covered it again. Ethan tightened his grip on the axe. His voice was soft but determined. "I protected you once. I'll do it again. Humans don't run." The mother stared at him with a mixture of confusion and admiration. Then came a final sound, one that chilled Ethan to the bone. The sound of something climbing onto his roof. The sound on the roof grew heavier, as if something huge crawled across the old wooden boards. Snow slid down the windows, and dust fell from the ceiling. Ethan stood frozen for a moment, listening to the deep, slow movements. Whatever was above them was not human. Not even close. The alien mother held her baby tight, her breath fast and shaky. Her glow flickered like a dying candle. She looked at Ethan with fear, but also with something else, hope. She trusted him now. That trust gave Ethan the strength to move. He whispered, "Stay here," even though he knew she wouldn't understand the words. But she understood the meaning. She nodded, her eyes trembling but brave. Ethan grabbed the axe with both hands. His heart pounded in his chest. He was just an old farmer. He had never fought anything like this. But the thought of the mother and baby dying in his home lit a fire inside him. Humans protect the weak. That was something every good person believed. A loud crack echoed above them. One of the roof boards snapped. Ethan stepped forward, placing himself between the alien mother and the sound. He whispered to himself, "If it comes through that roof, I'll be ready." The alien mother raised her hand again, creating a soft blue circle of light. She aimed it at the ceiling, ready to defend her child even with her last strength. The creature stopped moving. The silence was worse than the sound. Ethan glanced at the window. Outside, a second shadow slipped across the snow fast, long-limbed, crawling like a giant insect. 2 trackers. Maybe more. Ethan's blood ran cold. Suddenly, the creature on the roof let out a piercing metallic scream. It scraped its claws across the wood, searching for a weak point. Snow drifted through small cracks overhead. Ethan made a quick decision. He whispered to the alien mother, pointing to the stove, then the barn, then his tools. She looked confused, so he hurried to draw a picture on the wooden floor with ash from the stove. Simple plan. Creature gives barn, gives trap. He pointed to the mother, then to the cabin floor, then crossed both arms to show danger. Then he pointed to himself and drew a big circle around the trap. She finally understood. He was going to lure the creature away. Alone, she shook her head, making a soft, desperate hum. She did not want him to risk his life for her, but Ethan placed a hand gently on her shoulder. His voice was low, steady, strong. Humans don't leave families behind. She didn't understand the words, but she understood the heart behind them. Her eyes softened. Ethan moved quickly. He opened the back window quietly and stepped into the snow. The cold hit him like a punch, but he kept moving. He made loud footsteps on purpose, dragging the axe across the ground to make noise. The tracker heard him. Its long shadow shifted on the roof. Then it moved fast. Ethan ran toward the barn, his breath sharp in the freezing air. Behind him, he heard the creature drop from the roof. Its heavy limbs hit the snow. It let out another metallic growl and began to chase him. Ethan's legs burned as he ran. He wasn't young anymore, but adrenaline carried him forward. He reached the barn door and pushed it open, stepping inside just as the creature came closer. He grabbed a long rope from the wall and pulled hard. The rope was attached to an old farm machine, an automatic haystacker with heavy metal forks. He had fixed it only weeks ago. Now it was part of his trap. The tracker climbed through the barn window, its glowing eyes scanning the darkness. Steam rose from its limbs as it detected Ethan's body heat. It hissed a terrifying sound, like metal twisting. Ethan shouted, "Come on, then. Come and get me." He hated how his voice shook, but he held his ground. The creature lunged. Ethan jumped aside and pulled the rope. The machine's gears clanked loudly. The heavy metal forks dropped down, slamming into the tracker's side. The creature screeched as sparks flew. It twisted and snapped one of the forks off, but Ethan still had a moment. He swung his axe. The blade hit the creature's arm, leaving a deep cut. The tracker roared, shaking the barn walls. It knocked Ethan to the ground, the axe sliding across the floor. Ethan's back hit the hay hard. Pain shot up his spine, but he crawled quickly, reaching for the fallen tool. The creature rose again, limping but still deadly. Before it could strike, a bright blue beam shot through the barn window. The alien mother stood outside, holding her baby with one arm and aiming her glowing hand with the other. She fired again. The creature stumbled. Ethan shouted, "Now!" He swung the axe again, this time hitting deeper. The creature collapsed, twitching in the hay, its glow fading slowly. Silence filled the barn. Ethan dropped the axe. Breathing heavily, the alien mother walked toward him, her glow steady now. She looked at the fallen creature, then at Ethan. Her eyes filled with something powerful, respect, gratitude, and a new kind of trust. She placed her hand on his chest and whispered a soft sound, gentle, warm, filled with emotion, the first word the aliens used to humans, a word that meant thank you. But the relief was short. From the forest came another scream. Another tracker, stronger. This fight wasn't over. Snow shook from the trees. The ground trembled. Something bigger than the tracker in the barn was coming. Ethan tightened his grip on the axe, even though his hands were shaking. He was tired, hurt, and freezing. But he had survived once, and he wasn't going to give up now. Not while the mother and baby still needed him. The alien mother moved closer to him. Her glow was weak, but her eyes were full of courage. She raised her hand and traced a glowing symbol in the air. 3 circles instead of 2, 3 trackers. Ethan's breath caught. 3? There are 3 of them? She nodded slowly, her eyes filled with sadness. She knew they couldn't fight all of them. Not like this. Not out here in the cold. The trees shook. Heavy steps approached through the darkness. Ethan whispered, "We need a plan. And fast." He looked at the barn, then at his cabin, then at the old radio tower behind his house. It was tall and still powered by a small backup generator. The tower could send a signal far into the sky, maybe far enough. He turned to the alien mother. "Your people? Can they hear signals? Light? Energy?" He pointed toward the sky, then toward her. She understood. Her eyes widened. She pressed her hand to her chest, and a tiny hologram appeared, a star map. Her people were near, searching for survivors. If they could send a strong signal, she could be rescued, but the trackers were closing in. Ethan motioned for her to follow and ran toward the tower. The snow was deep, and the cold cut through his clothes, but he kept going. The mother followed behind him, holding her baby close. The baby made soft, frightened sounds, but the mother whispered gentle hums to calm it. When they reached the tower, Ethan climbed the metal steps quickly. Every movement hurt. His leg throbbed from the earlier fall. But he forced himself upward. At the top, he reached the small control box. He ripped it open, exposing wires and the glowing emergency light. If he boosted the signal, maybe the aliens would hear it. He looked down. The mother stood at the base of the tower, watching him silently. The trackers were still hidden in the forest, but their growls echoed in the night. They were circling, waiting to strike. Ethan grabbed the tool belt he kept on the tower platform and started pulling wires, connecting cables, twisting old metal until sparks flew. The emergency light glowed brighter, then brighter still, until it lit the sky with a strong beam. The alien mother raised her hand and sent a pulse of her own energy upward. It mixed with the light, turning it into a glowing blue signal that shot into the clouds. For a moment, the night went quiet, and the forest exploded with movement. The first tracker rushed out, sprinting toward the tower on long, sharp limbs. The second followed, and then the third, bigger than the others, glowing with red energy. Ethan shouted from above, "Get behind the tower! Don't let them see the baby." The mother obeyed, hiding beneath the metal structure, protecting her child. Ethan grabbed a metal pipe from the platform and struck the tower beam. The loud clang echoed across the field. "Come on, you monsters!" He yelled. "You want heat? You want a fight? Come get me." The trackers turned toward him instantly. Ethan knew the risk. He was making himself the target. But that was the only way to keep them from the mother and her baby. The first tracker jumped at the tower, climbing fast. Ethan backed up, gripping the pipe tightly. The creature reached the top and swung its claws. Ethan blocked with the pipe and kicked it hard. The tracker slipped, losing balance. It fell from the tower and crashed into the snow below. The second tracker climbed next. Ethan swung again, hitting its arm. Sparks flew. It screamed, but kept climbing. It reached the platform. Ethan stepped back, ready for another strike. A sudden blast of blue light shot up from below. The alien mother had fired again, her energy beam hitting the creature square in the chest. It fell backwards off the tower, but the third tracker remained the largest, the strongest. It smashed into the tower's base, shaking the entire structure. Ethan almost fell. The mother stumbled. The baby cried, glowing faintly, reacting to the danger. Then, a deep hum filled the air. A bright white light appeared above the clouds. A ship, the alien rescue ship. The mother looked up, tears in her glowing eyes. She reached toward the sky, calling aloud in her strange language. The baby reached out too, holding one tiny glowing hand toward the light. The largest tracker roared and charged at Ethan didn't think he moved. He jumped from the tower ladder, landing hard in the snow. Pain exploded in his legs, but he forced himself to stand. He grabbed a burning piece of metal from the generator exhaust. He charged forward. "Leave them alone," he shouted. The tracker turned, surprised by his attack. Ethan swung the burning metal with all his strength. It struck the creature's head. Flames burst across its face. The tracker shrieked, stumbling backward. A beam of light from the ship suddenly slammed down, hitting the creature and lifting it into the air. The tracker screamed, but then vanished inside the beam. The other two trackers ran, disappearing into the dark forest. The ship chased them, clearing the area. Ethan fell onto his knees, gasping. The alien mother ran to him. She knelt beside him, touching his face gently. Her eyes were soft, warm. She whispered the same word she had given him earlier, but now it carried deeper meaning. "Thank you." The ship landed nearby. A door opened. Two aliens stepped out tall, glowing, beautiful. They helped the mother and baby aboard. Before leaving, the mother pressed a glowing stone into Ethan's hand. The stone shone with soft blue light. "For when you need us." Her voice echoed softly in his mind. The ship rose into the sky, light filling the field. Ethan watched it disappear into the stars. Silence returned. The trackers were gone. The mother and baby were safe. And Ethan, an ordinary farmer, had become something more. A protector. A hero. And the first human trusted by their kind. The snow stopped. Dawn slowly touched the horizon. But deep in the forest, something else moved. The story wasn't over.